Hello YouTube, welcome back to Warsaw. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And in this video, we will take a look at why Russia cannot retake Kursk, or at least not without accepting defeat along another front line. So first off, in order for Russia to have any significant victory, they must sacrifice thousands of troops and hundreds of vehicles. If we take a look at Avdiivka, Russia suffered some 47,000 killed or wounded in order to take Avdiivka. Bakhmut, we had some 30,000 killed or wounded. And if we take a look at Vovchansk, well, they have deployed some almost 50,000 troops that have so far failed in taking the city. So in order for Russia to have a major success on the battlefield, they must sacrifice insane amounts of soldiers in order for that to happen. So please keep that in mind as we move on. Ukraine could be attacking into Kursk Oblast with as many as 10,000 and possibly even 15,000 troops. And they are digging trenches, preparing to defend their gains, according to news outlets. In a head-on engagement, you strive to have a 3-to-1 advantage over the enemy. And against prepared defenses, such as trenches, conventional wisdom says you should try and have a 5-to-1 advantage. And it all comes down to have more firepower than the enemy, have more troops you can outmaneuver the enemy, and also to be able to take casualties and still be able to win the fight. Even if you lose a couple of guys, you still have the troops you need to overcome the enemy, right? You can still outgun them, you can still outmaneuver them. So against trenches, going into those trenches, going into those bunkers, you need a 5-to-1 advantage. So if Ukraine has 10,000 troops dug in and ready to defend what they've taken, Russia would need at least 30,000 troops to push Ukraine out, and preferably 50,000. Russia began with 30,000 troops attacking Kharkiv, and has since been forced to reinforce that front with the 20,000 troops supposed to attack Sumy. Losing hundreds of soldiers each day on the Kharkiv front, Russia no longer has the manpower in Belgorod Oblast to effectively counter the Ukrainian incursion into Kursk Oblast. If Russia begins to allocate troops from the Kharkiv front to the Kursk front, chances are good that Ukraine will be able to push Russia out of Kharkiv all the way back to the border. So Russia must now choose where to fight, where to have operational success. Deploy 30 to 50,000 troops to Kursk in order to defend Russian soil, or keep fighting at Kharkiv. It is not an easy choice. The Kharkiv front is locking Ukrainian forces and resources in place that Ukraine could use to defend Pokrovsk. If Russia abandons the Kharkiv campaign to defend Kursk, Ukraine could allocate forces to the Pokrovsk front. Not to mention, Ukraine could push Russia out of the Kharkiv Oblast in full. Russia needs 50,000 troops to be successful at Kharkiv. Russia needs 50,000 troops to be successful at Kursk. Russia does not have enough troops to fight along both fronts. A static army is a hamstrung army. An army wants to move forward, it wants to be aggressive and control the initiative to have momentum. This year, Russia has controlled the initiative along practically the entire front line. Russia has dictated where battles are fought and when they are fought. This basically has allowed Russia to control where Ukraine deploys troops and resources, forcing Ukraine to fight where Russia wants Ukraine to fight. A prime example is the Kharkiv front, where Russia has forced Ukraine to allocate vast resources to fight battles that in no way helps Ukraine achieve victory. At the same time, Russia has also been in control of the initiative at more crucial locations, being able to exploit Ukrainian mistakes at places like Ochirotuna and Toretsk, simply because Russia is dictating terms, because Russia is on the advance, because Russia can fight where Russia wants to fight. As Russia was in control of the aggression, in charge of the momentum, it was only a matter of time before Russia would find success, despite the severe casualties Russia was suffering. This is why I made a video some months ago covering the need for Ukraine to turn things around, the need for Ukraine to find a location where they could force Russia to react, where Ukraine was acting instead of constantly reacting. Because if Ukraine did not act, Russia would push its advantage. Ukraine had to find a way to force Russia to fight where Russia did not want to fight, force Russia to move troops to where Russia did not want to move troops. And this was not intended as critique of the Ukrainian armed forces, just an observation of what was at the time going on. And that is why the Kursk operation is of such incredible importance for Ukraine. Ukraine is now acting instead of reacting. Ukraine is now an army on the move, not a static army. An army on the move is an army that is winning. An army on the move is an army that controls the initiative, that is aggressive. An army on the move is an army that forces the enemy to fight where it does not suit the enemy, forces the enemy to move troops to where he does not want to move troops. Never in my wildest dreams did I suspect that Ukraine would launch such an operation into Kursk. I thought it would happen in the south, in Kherson. But Ukraine is finally acting, showing aggression, taking the initiative, and forcing Russia to react, to move troops to where Ukraine wants to fight, forcing Russia to fight battles that Ukraine has chosen. Ukraine is an army on the move once more, and an army on the move is an army that can win. And next up we will take a look at some of the maps of the Kursk incursion, and we will be relying on the Ukraine control map, the maps provided by Andrew Perpetua, and the ISW maps. And we're starting out with a map from Andrew Perpetua, and I wanted to highlight what he has discovered. Russia is building trenches and defensive works up in this highway here, or this intersection here, and along the highway here to defend the road to Kursk, obviously, as well as the area surrounding the Kursk nuclear power plant. So Russia is expecting Ukraine to push this far up. And just in case Ukraine gets that far, Russia is now building defensive works to defend the city and the nuclear power plant. And here we have the Ukraine control map and Andrew Perpetua's map. And as we can see, this is actually from yesterday, I think, because now today we have updated that Russia has 5 motor rifle brigades in the area east of the incursion. And Ukraine has expanded its control a bit. Yeah, so here we have the ISW map, where we can see how Ukraine has pushed out almost all the way to Koronevo, like Andrew Perpetua says. And the ISW map confirms that Ukraine has pushed up to the west of the main highway, along this valley, along the small villages and towns here. And then this is Sheptukovka, where we are seeing these geolocated positions here. And also Ukraine is in control of Sudzha and has pushed out to the northeast of the city, where Russia is pushing in with these now 5 motor rifle brigades. So I figured we would take a bit closer look at the 3 main battles that appears to be ongoing at the moment. And first off, we have this area of the incursion close to Koronevo, as you can see here. And what I want to highlight are these blotches here that are geolocated artillery strikes. Take a look at the amount of artillery Russia is sending in towards the Ukrainians trying to push into Kremenova and Koronevo. They are pounding the Ukrainians like crazy, which could indicate that Ukraine is pushing strongly and Russia is desperately trying to halt this advance with as much artillery as possible, since you have obviously a lot of Ukrainians pushing this way along this highway here through Koronevo. And the second battle is taking place down at Martinovka, down here. We now have 5 motor rifle brigades, like I pointed out, attacking here, trying to push into Sudzha, as they're attacking through Martinovka and towards the suburbs of the city here. And what is this area? Well, it's wide open farmland. Russia appears to be in control of this valley here. By the looks of it, Ukraine has the city and they have the farmland up here, the small country roads and some of the villages over here. That blotch here, that's that one there. You can see how they line up. So these farmland or these wide open fields are probably no man's land, with Russians entrenched here, Ukrainians entrenched here. Maybe some fighting inside of Martinovka itself, but my guess is that Russia is in control of the valley and the town, and the wide open farmlands here are no man's land, and Ukraine is holding the city and the railroad and the forest areas up here, as well as the smaller villages. And last but not least, this northern part here, where we have Ukrainians geolocated thanks to Russian airstrikes at this town called Semikhovka. And we also have Ukrainians geolocated at Kromsky Byki. And Kromsky Byki, it's this town up here. And the airstrikes have been aimed at this location here, Semikhovka, and this small valley here. So Ukrainians are obviously located here and have been bombed heavily by the Russian Air Force. And we also have some other geolocated Ukrainian units up in around the town of Kromsky Byki. As you can see, Ukraine is pushing up along this valley here, making use of the trees and what have you, and the terrain itself as cover as they're pushing northward, avoiding the main highway that is more than likely covered by Russian drones, and where Russia can easily target anything moving north towards Kromsky Byki. So it does appear a bit as if Russia's strategy at the moment to contain this is to defend in the north. As we can see, they're building these defensive structures. They are launching massive artillery strikes to hold the northern front, trying to prevent Ukraine from pushing further north, as they are attacking from the east with these, as you can see now, 5 motor rifle brigades. And I'm guessing that more and more troops will be trickling in from the Kharkiv region and Belgorod towards this battlefield up here, and that is why we're seeing more and more Russian formations showing up in the east here, helping out in the attacking through Martinovka, pushing in towards Sudzha itself. And so as Russian reinforcements trickle in and start building up along this eastern flank, Russia is trying to prevent Ukraine from pushing further north with all of these massive artillery strikes and airstrikes, while they're desperately trying to build up defenses to defend Kursk and the power plant. So it appears that this is Russia's strategy at the moment: halt the Ukrainian advance with massive artillery barrages while pushing in with more and more troops from the east. And this, of course, affects how Ukraine can operate. Ukraine is trying, as we've seen, to push further north. They are pushing strongly northward here along these main highways. But as more and more Russians show up, as more and more Russians come from Kharkiv, this front here will demand a lot of attention from the Ukrainians. They will have to divert and allocate resources, manpower, and what have you to hold this front line, which means they can't push as strongly northward. So I'm thinking that they are about to reach the extent of their push into Russia, and they will now have to focus on holding this eastern front and defend what they've taken. And as we've seen in some news articles, I believe it was Forbes, was it? They are beginning to build trenches within occupied territory, preparing to hold on to what they've taken so far. So if Ukraine begins to fall back up in the north, it will probably be to fall back to these newly built defensive trenches so that they can hold on to this incursion as Russian troops keep pushing in, coming in from Kharkiv, like I said. Unless there is more to come. With Ukraine clearly pushing northward, combined with multiple Ukrainian attacks along the E38 highway up in the north at Rilsk, including the now famous strike at Rilsk, maybe we will see additional Ukrainian forces pushing into Kursk Oblast along the E38. Is the push north part of a grander strategy, or is it merely due to opportunity? Could Ukraine have more forces hidden away, waiting to spring into action? Who knows? We'll see what happens. But I do think that Ukraine will not push that much further into Russia. Russian reinforcements are beginning to show up. Ukraine need to hold that eastern flank. They are, by the looks of it, building defensive lines within Russia, and chances are they will hold what they've gained in order for those defenses to be prepared and built up properly. And when that is done, they will probably fall back to those trench lines, giving Russia ground, and then they will hold the defensive lines, and Russia will have to deploy thousands and thousands of troops if they want to liberate Russian soil from Ukrainian occupation. So we'll see what happens. As always, go по марш, Ukraine. Give them hell.